Salutations, greetings to the eye and the eye. Welcome to another edition of JIBLAK Sunday School. I am Chancellor Dr. Iman Black. Broadcast is coming to you from out the center of Atlantis, that country that existed millions of years ago. North, Central, and South. Continents united, landmass connected. This Sunday school wants to deal with, yes, Sunday school format and the programming and to decipher. But you want to connect to the present. And the present is a state of war globally. And the main instigator of the calamity in the earth today could be easily put at the feet of one nation. That's the nation that came into being in 1948, 52 and 26. Very young nation. 1948, it was forged through violence and conspiracy between European nations to create a state called Israel. But prior to that creation, I and I, black people, we already introduced a concept called Israel. The idea and a story about a people. And these people have been given characteristics, and we have sort of attached ourselves to the story that many of I and I claim themselves to be Israeli, children of Israel. So we have to be careful that we can make the distinction between the Bible, Israel, and the politically constructed Israel of 1948. So we're looking at two concepts or two constructs of Israel. One has a foundation in the Jewish scripture. One has a foundation in what we call the Old Testament. And the other has a foundation in what we call the modern times, or even the New Testament, the Newer Testament. How do these different concepts of Israel impact the psychology and the mentality of black people generally? What is our attitude towards Israel in today's world now? In the world where we see Israel manifesting practices of what they call genocide, extermination, settler colonization. All of these have become attributes of the Israel created in 1948. The same Israel under the leadership today of Bibi Benjamin is on a course of decimation and destruction and elimination of a people. We watched on television over 2 years how the people of Gaza were slaughtered. Everything that moved was killed, bombed and bombed and bombed into smithereens. You see the same Israel bombing and bombing and bombing Lebanon into smithereens. And we see the Israel now given full leash to attack and to bomb out Iran. Israel, no black people. Who is Israel? So we're going to have the discussion as to whether Israel in the Bible is the Israel or is it the Israel that was formed in 1948? And who are the Jews? Because there are a lot of black people who claim to be Jews. And there are a lot of people in Israel who claim to be Jews. Confusion in identity. But JIBLAK Sunday School want to look at Israel first from the Bible perspective, one that captures our imagination. I will speak about the God of Israel now. In today's world, is the God of Israel of 1948 state, is that the same God of Israel of the Bible? And how did the God of Israel come about in the Bible? Who is Israel? What is Israel in the Bible? That can be easily found. You just push two buttons on your thing and you get some information as to where the term Israel come from. So we hear in the book of Genesis that there was a man named Jacob. And well, let me get it first. Israel is a Hebrew word. Primarily means one who struggles with God, or God strives. And it originated from the story about Jacob, who was renamed now Israel. After he had to wrestle with an angel. This is in Genesis. Genesis 32, verse 28. We are introduced to Israel as a name taken unto a man who was named Jacob. And Jacob is reported to have wrestled with an angel. So these things we must realize are not literal. These things are metaphorical, these things are allegorical. Because in the book of Genesis, who will be observing a man wrestling with an angel to write the story? It says Moses. Well, Moses was not alive at this point in time. So be careful again when we listen to these Bible stories. So we're introduced to Israel in the Genesis as an individual. And as the story may take us further now, that Israel have some sons. And these will become the sons of, eventually be the founders of the tribes of Israel. So the whole Israel biblical construct partly is about a set of people in a lineage coming from a one man who has been, enlightened. And so we have the idea of Israel as an individual. No. I was also introduced to the idea of the children of Israel through the stories of Moses. And as I said to them, JIBLAK Sunday School focuses on the mythology and literature in the Genesis, the Exodus, and the Revelations. Those are the books that are confounding. So we find that in the book of Exodus, we learn about Pharaoh. And we get the concept of Pharaoh as a wicked man. We get the idea that Pharaoh was evil. The misinformation that reaches us as children about hating Pharaoh. And in the biblical narrative, it's Pharaoh versus Moses. And Moses represents now the God of Moses. God is our Israelite. So there's a God of Moses who has been set now against Pharaoh. Pharaoh versus Moses, a very important literature, struggling literature that we internalize and think is a real story. It's an ideological struggle because Pharaoh represents the Quranic kingdom, the kingdom of king. We, the black people, are symbolically represented by the Pharaoh dynasties of ancient Egypt. That is our foundation. But the narrative sets us against ourselves, and we internalize Pharaoh now as the enemy, and quote unquote children of Israel as the enslaved. And therefore, we try to unite with the enslaved people who are also seeking their liberation. And enough of us internalize Israel as black people struggle. Heavy psychology. So we have to free yourself now from the misconstrued ideas about now this God of Israel. Because the God of Moses has also become the God of Israel. The same God of Moses that African people have been told to embrace as a liberator because he came to save the children of Israel from Pharaoh. Disconnect African people from their roots through a Red Sea crossing, which is again another allegory. And we cheer Moses through the Red Sea crossing, we cheer him through. And we celebrate when the ocean come back and cover Pharaoh. The demise of our own psychological culture and presenting Moses now as a liberator. Moses who got his education according to the literature in Pharaonic kingdom. And again, Moses is not necessarily a literal thing, it's another allegorical story of a kid coming down the river and being found by Pharaoh's wife, daughter, and taken into the thing. And it's another mythology. But it is the God of Moses that sets the foundation for even black people today by the laws of Moses. The laws that we are told Moses went up on a mountain to receive. Him alone go up there, and it was documented by somebody else. And that the ground spoke to Moses. What a thing, this is psychotic behavior. And who records the voices in the mountains between Moses and the God? It's all imaginary. And we internalize these stories as realities. So we are indoctrinated in the fullness into our God of Moses, into a character named Moses, who is set as our liberator, who free people from Africa. Because the story that Moses led the people out of Africa into a desert. And for 40 years, the people went around in a circle. Generations passed with no promised land. But the God of Moses had to be established to maintain order as the people rebelled. Needed an invisible force to keep the people in check. So Moses went away and got into a mountain meditation and came back with the laws of God. And when we know our true stories, we know that the laws of Moses are really copies of even more ancient set of laws by Hammurabi, the king of Babylon. The people who speak about the negative confessions of Egypt, but need to know about the Hammurabi, the King Hammurabi of Babylonia, and the great lawgiver he was, set the foundation for law. So it's not a Moses thing when it comes to laws. It is the black man long before these mythologies were written. So the God of Israel now is that the God of the African people. And is that the same God that we must call upon now that Benjamin Netanyahu calls upon to maintain his carnage? Something have to give. We as African people, we cannot be calling upon the God of the same forces that keep us in our subjugation and maintain violence in the world. The Englishmen, the British during their colonial powers informed us that God saved the Queen. And they will sing that all around the world, God saved the Queen. Is that the same God of Israel? Is that the same God of Moses? Is that Father of Jesus? So we have to kind of check the ideology. And when Donald Trump says, God bless America, and we see America advocating this type of violence and oppression around the world, is that the same God Africans are calling upon? So we may have to abandon this God of Moses, because this God of Moses doesn't advocate for the liberation of black people. God of Moses advocates laws of oppression. So I love Sunday school because the globe is at the brink of a collapse. Men are fighting without a motive, without an end point that is constructive. So the Russians and the Ukrainians, the Afghanistans and the Pakistanis, the Iranians and the Jews, the United States and the Iranians. There's war. Strict war and money promoting. But let me divert from the wars on the earth to speak about something significant happening in space. Because again, the book of Genesis, which we hold as the book of origins, tells us about in the beginning what God created. And we are under the impression that the creation of God, in its beauty, that the highest manifestation of the creation is man. We have convinced ourselves, and the scripture has informed us that man is the highest form of life on the planet Earth. But the planet Earth is a small place in the infinite cosmos. The planet Earth is a small space within our solar system. Yes, the planet Earth is not as big as the men who visualize themselves to be superior to everybody else. So in the Earth today and in space today, for the first time, human beings have acknowledged and confessed that they have made contact with intelligent forces from other parts of the galaxy. Yes, call it contact. And the global astronomy community, the community of astronomers, the physicists, the scientific world, the military, are all under the similar information that there has been contact from with a superior intelligence. It's called 3i Atlas. The 3i Atlas has looked as word of astronomy running all over the place, because it is the first exact and direct evidence of superior knowledge from a different part of the galaxy outside of the solar system in which the Earth is located. So it is no longer a question as whether man is alone in the universe. Not only is man not alone, there are supreme and higher advanced societies scattered out to the cosmos. One such force has entered, and that force is becoming a transforming agent in the atmosphere and in the technology of human beings and in the advancement of physics. It has challenged all human laws of science and physics. It has established that light is not the fastest moving element. It has established powers of interfering with electromagnetic fields that surround the Earth. Deep scientific influences on our planet today as I speak. But the majority of the world is involved in the books that are, the Bible and what the Bible says. And because of the wars, people have been conditioned to think that we are in the end of the world times. But these end of world times are correlating with the appearance in our atmosphere of a galactic intervention. Yes, maybe where the Earth is going, these men can't stop themselves heading into self-destruction. The trio has presented a different mentality, consciousness, more ancient than the primitives that are playing around here with nuclear weapons. Yet the trio have exposed primitive behavior of human beings who have gotten a little taste of technological knowledge but using it to destroy themselves. They've destroyed the oceans, they've destroyed the atmosphere, destroyed the land, destroying destruction. Trio appears to be an intervention. And whether we are conscious or not, this planet is far more ancient and has life form that we have no knowledge of. It is evident that ancient civilizations have already visited this planet long before and have left things inside the planet. If underground, beneath ice in Antarctica, beneath the Sahara Desert, deep underground. So these things are coming out now. The fact that the Earth has always been being observed by supreme knowledge. It is the Europeans who have had the insight and have locked down the information. I know the Chinaman has come and revealed through his own astronomy and analyzing the same data that what has come into our atmosphere is no longer cannot be defined as a comet or an asteroid. It's a craft that has been engineered that is thousands and perhaps millions of years old, defying all the varieties of physics and astronomy within our solar system. Far more ancient. So there's a time for reflection and realize that the beginning story that they give us is a myth. But here comes a civilization that is millions and millions of years old, who cannot fall under the story of let there be light. So the evidence is apparently here for us to know that we are not a creation of a narrative in a Bible. We have no beginning out of dirt. Our beginning will be in the ancestral forces of the stars. We are from the stars. We are galactic people. We, the original people who have passed through this planet, are galactic. We're not terrestrial. So we're not fearful about extraterrestrial. We are connected. Yeah, the Earth is the most serious things that are happening on the Earth in the last 2,000 years. The intervention of galactic forces, of intelligences that are way beyond what anything on Earth has achieved. So we have to look at the God of Israel, and the God of Moses, and the God of Adam and Eve. And these are mythologies. This civilization that is in our atmosphere now cannot be put into a creation story. It is we African people have been put into that story. And on that basis, our genesis and origin comes from the earth and out of the dirt. When these ancients are showing us that our genesis could be coming from millions of miles away, light years away, different constellations. The scientific community is under distress right now, having to deal with the realities that they have seen, but they don't want to expose too quickly. But they cannot be hidden. So we have to come out of the ignorance of man being the apex in civilization, and Earth is the most important place. We are small forms of life in a magnificent cosmos. And what is really needed through the experience of Tria is more humility as a species. We are being examined as a species, and our evolution is not moving in the positive direction according to the words of the collective. So things are going down, and I'm just making my little input into the fact that what's happening on the ground with the war is a serious set of events. What's going on above could be even more serious. All right, so we're going to leave it at that. I've got Sunday school. Again, you must, if you feel like and you think it's necessary, support and subscribe to the channel. Yes, and you can visit my book site at imanblak.com. www.imanblak.com. Yeah, the God of Israel. So, the religion now of Israel, we see that people are calling themselves Jews. And we find that anybody can be a Jew. Because Jew is not a race. Jew is a religious identity. The first time I found out that Sammy Davis was a Jew, I couldn't believe it. Sammy Davis is blacker than me. So anybody can be a Jew. Now we hear about God and his chosen people. Now you check this. This is the creation of segregation to the highest level, where God has chosen people, so everybody else is unchosen. And who are these chosen people? Why does God have a bias? But the bias was shown from the story of Cain and Abel, where the same God of Cain and Adam showed bias to one of the sons that invoke violence and murder. So it's a biased God. And this biased God has some people now who are feeling that they can do anything they want on the earth because they are God's children. This is the attitude now taken up by the Jews in Israel. Their attitude is that they are God's chosen people. And on that basis, they can do anything they want and call it in the name of defense. So the unchosen people now, like the Palestinians, and those are not considered to be people anymore. They are considered to be subhuman animals. And so when you see the violence being meted out to these people, the genocide and extermination, it's grounded in that religious ideology that they're defending themselves as the children of God. So which God again is that? Is that the same God that we black people call upon when the dogs bite us in America? Or when the policemen lick shots in America from black people and we say, Lord God, help us. Is that the same God? Or have we stop calling upon God altogether? But let go to God talk then. And begin to look into our own being and at the center of our consciousness. Make us start call upon each other now. Yeah, because the God thing not helping us. It says death and destruction in the name of God. Wars and violence in the name of God. That's why I criticize Garvey's idea of putting one God in the motto, but him couldn't help it. So we are conditioned to have faith in this one God. So the God of Israel under scrutiny, because the children of God are proven to be the most brutal people on the earth right now. Those who call themselves Jews from the state of Israel. And they're claiming their inheritance now to the Israeli and the Bible. And trying to claim the land of the Palestinians through Bible stories. And all of that now being supported by the God of Israel. So what about the God of the Palestinians now? How does that God impact his people? Or there is no God of the Palestinians? And we have to question the whole God concept. Because the God of Israel is really the G period, O period, D period. It's that G-O-D. Guns, the oil, and drugs. That is the God of Israel. And Israel is representing not only itself, but it has behind it the great big United States of America. And Israel has the United States doing its bidding because Israel controls the resources that can bribe all the senators in the United States. And with that amount of wealth, APAC can get the lobby in Washington to vote for anything Israel requires. So Israel is siphoning out more money to war than half of the states in America are getting. This is just rough talk. I don't know the data specifically. But the ammunition and the funding that goes to Israel could have run America 10 times. I know we see that in the war that Israel has inspired, America is bleeding because it's losing its resources through lack of munitions and technological weapons, and they're being exposed. And Israel has no intention to cease their activity until them, what they call white decimate Iran. Same attitude they have towards Hamas. The same attitude they have towards Hezbollah. They want to decimate these people, not just eliminate the leadership. They are the ones who want to remove these people from the planet. All of this now being backed by a supreme God, no Rasta, no black people. We have to step aside. Because we can't take any side in this. This is a brutal war to the end. And it's only Africa right now that is untouched with in terms of engagement. It's a European, Asian thing. Middle East is Asia, Western Asia. So the earth is in such a turmoil that as African people, we must be neutral in our observation, not taking any sides, but questioning now the powers. The powers. And we're not scrutinying, we're checking out the God of Israel. Is that the same God that we, as the black people, have to be calling upon when we say, God help us? Is it the God of Moses, which is the same idea? Is it the God of Adam and Eve, which is the same God? So, revisiting and rechecking, and with the presence of AI, with the presence of 3I, information is making us know that these are mythologies, because civilizations have been in this cosmos from before even the sun that we need was even created. Think about that. Civilizations existing before the sun that we know was even created. So we being here now, we wasn't anywhere then. So anything they tell us is what they make up, what man said, because they have no evidence of even what they're talking about. The space research now is showing that there is no singularity, there is no beginning point, there is no point where the was and Big Bang. They are realizing by using the James Webb telescope, they are seeing so far back in time that they think things will look younger. And the further back they go, they reach a point where things become more ancient rather than younger. So the universe in their visions have changed. It has no beginning. There is no beginning. The universe has always existed. Them just come to that now. We, the black people, need to know that as well. The universe, the cosmos, has no beginning. There is no starting point. So there is no creator that is governing I and I behavior, but to govern our own selves. The earth is at a strange stage now. Not only on the ground, but in space. And in space, the laws of physics, laws of Einstein, laws of Newton, all these laws now are being broken up and thrown away. And the theorists have to be changing their whole attitude towards existence. That the ideas are half-baked because superior intelligence has shown up. Them and everybody has to back off now and scramble and rewrite. NASA and the European Space Agency have been given one narrative about triad, and the Japanese and the Chinese and the Indians have given a different interpretation of triad. Those nations have declared these forces that come into our solar system are military minded and are a threat. While NASA and Europe are saying it's just a thing. We shall see very shortly whether these forces that come into this atmosphere are a threat, and what extent is it a threat, or is it just another passing story that goes in the classified files. Alright, so I will leave it at that. We have said the God of Israel can exist. Yeah, so I'm going to go by saying, why did God give the name Israel? And the response is that he was willing to let God prevail in his life. And in response, God changed Jacob's name to Israel. So that is the fundamental story to Israel. And these tribes that we hear now came out of Israel, the 12 tribes. And these 12 tribes have become foundation to Rastafari, especially the 12 tribes of Israel as an organization. And with the 12 tribes, our cosmology would speak to each tribe representing a birth sign. There's the 12 tribes of Israel. There are some who think that there was a 13th child, but it was a woman. But as usual, we never get any promotion. So it is an ideology that has spread out and impacted cultures. This whole Israel framework, and the children of Israel, and the Moses narrative. But if we stop and check, these are metaphors, these are allegories. Abraham was an allegory. So was Jacob. Stories in literature, but we have to look at from a more non-emotional connection. Our lineage as people cannot be found in the pages of the Old Testament. Our lineages are on the African continent. The Igbo and the Bantu, we want to know how are we connected to the Ashanti. We don't hear these people or identify them in the Genesis. So where are these Africans? So we got into that at another meditation. But for now, the God of Israel, whether it's the state or the biblical allegory, cannot be a source of liberation for any people. And the God of Israel says, "Thou shalt have no other God but me." We know that there are several other gods, and that is the sign of possession and jealousy. And that is the nature of the God that black people serve. Then it explains our behavior, why we are jealous and insecure. So we have to shake off the illusions and hold on to consciousness. I'm not Sunday school, though.